Have you ever read through a stack of emotion papers and had that sinking feeling that no one's actually looking at emotions? Instead, it's scales, scenarios, questionnaires, lots of numbers, very little crying, laughing, or shouting. Now, some researchers find this useful, but we think there's a cost. If you want to understand emotion as it actually shapes human life, those methods pull you away from the place where emotion is most visible and consequential, the live, unfolding business of people interacting with one another. That's where emotionography starts, with records of natural interaction, audio and video recordings taken from life as it happens, where things matter to people as they live their lives. So we study family meals, helpline calls, medical consultations, classrooms, therapy sessions, not role plays or lab tasks, not vignettes or surveys. Emotionography analyzes recordings with the same kind of discipline that you'd expect in any rigorous empirical science. Careful description, accountable claims, and methods that others can inspect, challenge, and reuse.
Between us, we've spent more than 20 years studying emotion in real life interaction. We're psychologists by training, and we both taught statistics and quantitative methods, so we don't have a problem with numbers. Our main analytic foundations are conversation analysis and discursive psychology. Why these? Because they provide the tools for studying emotion as it appears in action. That is, emotion in sequences of talk, unfolding moments in real time, embedded in particular settings with practical and moral consequences that flow from it. Our book is called Emotionography, Theory, Research and Practice, and it grew out of a frustration. That frustration is probably familiar. Most emotion research works with materials that quietly strip out the very features that make emotion consequential in real life. The book's also born out of an opportunity. If you start with recordings of real interaction, you keep crucial things in view. Who speaks when? How what is said is taken up and responded to, and how a pause, a rush through, or a tremor, or even a tiny laugh can change the trajectory of what's unfolding. Emotionography adds a second closely related point. People don't just express emotions, they use emotion displays and emotion words to do things. Things like softening criticism, building complaints, justifying refusals, recruiting sympathy, managing blame, preventing conflict from escalating. So the question becomes less what emotion is inside this person, and more, how is emotion being made relevant here? And what's it helping people accomplish right now? This is why we love doing this kind of research. Working with recordings is a bit like watching a really good movie in slow motion and then looking to see what makes it engaging and powerful. It allows you to start noticing the small details that completely change the scene. And these are details that might seem trivial, but they're the currency of social life. In emotionography practice, most researchers work with transcripts alongside raw recordings. What transcription does is it preserves the interactional specifics that matter, the timing, the overlap, the delivery, in a form that others can inspect. Now, you can disagree with the analysis, but you have to point to something on the page to justify that disagreement. That shared accountable focus is a big part of what makes emotionography work cumulative. And it's a big part of why we wrote this book.
So here's the shift emotionography makes. Most approaches try to access emotion by looking within individuals. We do something different. We ask, what did that emotion display make possible? So a sigh can soften a complaint, or a laugh can make criticism sayable. Sometimes it's even smaller than that, something embodied, like a bit of side eye or a bit of warning intonation. Jonathan, nothing dramatic. But everyone knows what just happened, especially Jonathan. That's the level at which emotion matters. Let's make this more concrete. Early in the book, we analyze a call to a child protection helpline. A caller is reporting a violent attack on a child. At one moment, the caller starts to become upset. More precisely, the call taker hears the upset starting. A slight delay, a small tremble in the voice, barely noticeable unless you're listening closely. And the call taker responds in subtle but consequential ways. She slows her pace. She adjusts her volume and prosody. And she tells the caller to take your time. In that moment, she shows she's noticed the emerging upset and licenses the slowdown. And this keeps the institutional task, gathering information to protect a child, on track without turning the call into therapy or asking the caller to reflect on their feelings. So we ask, what makes the upset relevant right here in this sequence? What does it make hearable? Trouble, vulnerability, legitimacy, urgency? What does it make conditionally relevant for the call taker? Reassurance, pursuit, reformulation? And how does the institutional setting shape what can happen next? Those questions only make sense when you work with recordings because the phenomenon lives in the timing and the design. A second example comes from our work on mixed emotion, and it helps clear up a common misunderstanding. In many psychological accounts, emotions are treated as neat, separate categories. You're sad or amused, angry or relieved. Laughter in particular is usually treated as a sign that something is funny, but real interaction doesn't work that way. In one set of cases we analyze, speakers are dealing with matters that are clearly troubling, awkward, or distressing. As they describe the problem, their talk includes a smiley voice or a few small laugh particles, right alongside the expression of distress. So nothing is funny. No joke has been told. The laughter is doing interactional work. The speaker is showing that although the matter is serious, they don't need sympathy here. So the laughter doesn't cancel the trouble, it modulates it. Recipients hear this and respond to it. Often they take the trouble seriously and help move the interaction along without escalation. Seen this way, mixed emotion isn't an inner cocktail sloshing around in your head. It's something people assemble in real time using voice quality, timing, and delivery to balance competing interactional demands. And emotionography helps us see that balancing act as it happens. Now, at this point, people often say two things. First, isn't this just trivial detail? Isn't it just everyday chit chat? But these small details are where major things can happen. They're where complaints succeed or fail, where trust is built or lost, where institutional tasks stay on track or derail. If emotion matters, in real life, then the moments where it becomes visible and consequential can't be dismissed as trivial. A second objection is that this kind of work is all subjective. In fact, it's the opposite. Emotionography works with public, shared evidence. Claims have to be tied to what can be seen and heard. Others can check them, challenge them, and refine them. So we're not just relying on private introspection or researchers' impressions. We're analysing the methods people themselves use to make emotion recognisable and actionable.
One of the big findings across the book is that familiar emotion labels stop looking like single, stable things once you study them in real interaction. Take upset or crying. In practice, they splinter into vocal features, embodied conduct, formulations of trouble, and characteristic response trajectories. And these elements mean different things in different settings. Crying in therapy can be treated as a resource for therapeutic intervention. Crying on a reporting helpline has to be managed carefully to bring the caller back into reporting the violence that's relevant. That setting sensitivity isn't an extra layer to be added later. It's part of what the phenomena is. So let me bring this to a close. Many approaches treat social life as the outcome of variables acting on individuals. Emotionography starts somewhere else. Much of what we call emotion is assembled in the back and forth of interaction. And interaction isn't background scenery. It's the arena where emotion is produced and where it becomes consequential. And it's only recently that advances in recording technology, developments in analytic tools, and shared research practices have come together to allow us to build a cumulative science of emotion in interaction. So our invitation is simple. If you want to understand emotion as it shapes human life, don't start by asking people to rate feelings in the abstract. Start with the moment emotion becomes relevant in an interaction. Start with what people do, how it's designed, how it's taken up. That is the vision of emotionography. And with that vision, you'll see more, miss less, and end up with findings that are both rigorous and practically useful, because they're grounded in social life as it actually unfolds. If that sounds like a direction worth exploring, we hope this book will give you the tools and the examples to help you do it.